Nature of Society Part 27, Session 7R. This evening we are going to have a discussion on industrial recession and or depressions. Recessions are a perennial occurrence in all countries, whether these countries have autocratic governments, whether they are democratic, whether they use a floating currency or one tied to any of the major currencies, does not matter. No country seems to be able to escape economic downturns, whatever the economic policy. Recessions are perplexing and contradictory. Large numbers of persons find themselves in want, but there are large stocks of goods stored away in warehouses which cannot be sold. Credit is hard to come by, money is tight, but funds which are available in great sums are not invested. The common view is that there is overproduction, prices are collapsing, and the general prescription is that production should be checked to stabilize prices. Public works programs are also demanded to employ the large band of the unemployed. Recessions, some say, are caused by tight money supply and cheap credit, and an increased money supply is usually advocated to restart the wheels of industry once again. On the contrary, some say that the collapse of credit is due to overspending and overconsumption, so that strict money supply and credit policies are to be imposed. Some say government profligacy or parsimony are the causes. These are the very diverse views that economists have on recession and industrial depression. Governments in turn respond to these prescriptions by setting up trade controls, tariffs and quotas to limit imports and control prices. Public works schemes and subsidies to goods are employed to increase employment. Contrarily, social services are cut to promote economy in government. Devaluations, revaluations, pegging and repegging one's currency to one or the other of the main currencies are done. Government no doubt lose office when there is recession. Progressive governments are exchanged for conservative ones, and vice versa. Two things we definitely know about recessions are: one, that they occur in every country and in every type of economic system; two, that they occur at regular intervals, which suggests that the cause of same is always present. The paradox could be summarized as follows. A. There is a check on production. B. Millions of workers are thrown onto breadlines because of this check, and if this happens not in any one type of industry, but in all industries in general. C. Millions are reduced to poverty for the very things that their labor could easily produce. D. There is no lack of investment funding or skills or knowledge to produce the goods and services needed. So, what causes industrial recession? One thing that is observed before a recession is that it is always preceded by a period of boom and prosperity. It is usually a period of expansion of production, rise in prices, rents, and wages. This expansion brings on and encourages speculation in land prices, commodities, stocks, shares, and almost all titles of wealth yet to be created. Rising prices, as we know, is not a desirable thing in any economy. Inflation defeats the purchasing power of wages. The demand for inordinately high prices in one area of the economy translates into higher prices throughout the economy eventually. High prices within an expanding economy runs counter to the fact that economies of scale should lower the cost of goods. As more goods are produced, prices should reduce. But this is never the case in periods of prosperity. What increases the standard of living in any economy is the exchange of goods and services. It is the volume produced and exchanged that matters, not the prices at which the exchange takes place. When prices are high in one commodity, the employees in this particular industry may enjoy a temporary advantage over other workers, as the increased price in this commodity is borne by all. Increased wages will be demanded by all other workers in due course. The initial prosperity engaged by the few at the start is soon extinguished. The only real wages or real purchasing power increase is one which enables the worker to obtain more goods and services in return for the product of his work. The same situation applies to rent. When more rent is demanded by the landowner, this has a check on production both on occupied and unoccupied sites. When rents are low, production of goods and services rise, and the general wealth of the community increases. When production is expanding, a reduction in price may be to everyone's benefit, but when the economy is contracting, low prices can be disastrous. In the early days of a recession, the disposal of products is difficult. This leads to the spiraling down of prices, with the consequent collapse of the business entity. The trouble with recessions is not low prices, but low volume of trade. The solution must lie in the area of expanding production and trade. An economic boom is characterized by expanding production, increasing commodity prices, increasing wages and rent. Expanding production must be first for the others to follow. There is speculation that naturally follows any increase in production. Speculation in articles of wealth can be ameliorated as long as production continues. Prices will always tend to stabilize and even become lower once production continues. Not so with speculation in land. Land and valuable land are limited in quantity, and when enclosed and withheld from production through speculation, there is a check in production which brings forth rise in prices. Prices can only be stabilized if more land are made available. The economy of a country is likened to a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is where the extraction of natural resources take place, such as mining, quarrying, forestry, and agriculture. Here all the raw materials of the economy are supplied. These raw materials are then supplied to factories and other such workhouses for converting into finished products. At the top of the pyramid is where the facilitating, merchandising, and banking are located, and these are concerned with machinery of exchange. If there is a check in the quantity of supply of raw materials to the factories, this will result in rising prices and the inability of some businesses to thrive. If raw material workers are kept out of work by restrictions caused by speculation in land values, then at the other end of the economy, factories will slow down in production and persons in the commercial sector will have less to do. Speculation in land is the withholding of land from use or from its full use in order to extract maximum rental value. As economies expand, the need for valuable land increases, and the greater the need, the greater the price demanded by landowners. Speculation in land acts as a check on production. In land dealings, considerations which both landowner and entrepreneur have are the future reward to be had from acquiring or controlling the land. Landowners would have uppermost the maximum future values that can be extracted. Entrepreneurs would have uppermost the maximum future yield or product that could be obtained if the economy keeps expanding. These attitudes have a double effect. Firstly, it maintains a constant check on the expansion of the economy. And secondly, it causes both parties to believe that prices will keep rising. Prices in fact rise above their natural level, while at the same time business failures and unemployment are increasing. As long as boom conditions thrive and prices are rising, speculation continues without causing any grave concern or disorganization. High prices give the promise that this will continue well into the future, so as a consequence, production proceeds. Prices will inevitably reduce because wages are not keeping up with them. Rents, however, do not reduce commensurately with prices. Those working the land, the raw materials, find that they cannot continue to service these high rents, and one by one these enterprises are abandoned, and there is a general drift away from the land, the first sign of impending economic trouble. This failure at the base of the economy makes conditions precarious throughout it. Increasing unemployment here causes markets to contract. Those engaged in manufacturing goods are unable to meet the higher cost of raw materials, and the continuing contraction of markets increases the difficulty for these businesses to thrive. For a time, there is a facade of prosperity as credit is acquired to treat with rising debt. A show of confidence is important for the business to portray, as anything other than this will find the business rapidly losing support on credit. In the face of declining fortunes, the entrepreneur usually makes one speculative undertaking. Because of his desperate situation, he oversteps the mark and the business fails. The creditors of the now bankrupt concern are no longer willing to provide credit against this now huge debt. A host of similar failures follow, and panic spreads. All the while, creditors try to recoup their investment, closing down industries in the process if they have to. Trade, as we said before, is the exchange of goods and services between workers. The human being's desire is unlimited, and there is no such thing as too much production. No sooner is one desire gratified that another replaces it, calling for more production. When men are hungry and in want, it is ludicrous to speak of overproduction. Yet goods are produced but cannot be sold. For a society and an economy to thrive, it must not merely produce goods and services that people want. It must have all its people engaged in the exchange of these goods and services. There must be a balance. If men are prevented from producing, then this balance in the economy is upset. When there appears to be overproduction, although there are many people in want of the goods, then it must mean that there is too little production by these people to exchange for these goods. Underproduction in one area would show itself in overproduction in another area of the economy, with a consequent fall in prices throughout the economy. Land prices, however, invariably remain high, and this is a check on production, with the consequent apparent overproduction because many members cannot afford these goods. Thus, in the end, there is the appearance of too many goods produced. Thus, the belief that the cause of trade failure is overproduction. Clearly, this cannot be so, as men's desires are unlimited, and there can be no such thing as too much production of everything. The truth is that the withholding of land causes underproduction, not overproduction. And this alone causes an imbalance in trade, which invariably affects the whole economy. Industrial recession is a failure of production. It is an intensification of the adverse conditions that are always present in society. With recession, there is more unemployment, more business failure, and more poverty. Land enclosure and withholding of land is present in all modern economies, and the boom-bust cycle is an inevitable occurrence as long as rent demands remain high, long after prices and wages fall. When rents fall, then and only then, the economy will reacquire the breathing room to resume production, from which, again, the cycle resumes. In the next two sessions, we will look towards those prescriptions as given by such renowned economic writers and philosophers as Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and Henry George to find answers to this dilemma. Before we end, I would like again to let you attendees know that Unsustainable Development is an educational offering devoted to the dissemination of its course to all of mankind and to those who have the English language as their official language in the first instance, and to all eventually all over the world. To make this possible, and because we do not charge a fee for this dissemination, we rely wholeheartedly on monetary donations to meet the cost of achieving these goals. If you have found these sessions useful thus far and would like others to have access to them, we would gratefully accept your donations, should you be inclined to offer them. You can send donations to our PayPal account at the email address nigelgittins@gmail.com. Thank you for your kind gesture.